Mahina can only carry 2 bags of ice at once. Claiming she could have carried 4.
Yeah, but still didn't drop it.
Unimpressed.
How many do you have?
Unimpressed. I can carry 2. I'm good for it. Gonna do the ice and the sauna and the epic full recap of the last month for you guys. I know we haven't been posting much because Zoard went on a trip and a lot of the footage we filmed went to GoPro for a project they were doing. So if you guys can't see all the adventures we had, I thought I'd tell you about them. Story form. Yes. Story time. Story time for the subscribers.
Story time.
Mahina's gonna mime the adventures while I tell the story. Nah. Just kidding. Okay, story time. As with any story, best to start you guys off from the beginning. I'm gonna try and do a full recap of the month of May, since we didn't really put any videos up. I was on the road, Zoard was on a family trip, and we had about 3 or 4 trips and some exciting stuff, like Red Bull Cape Fear, Galapagos, and so forth. So I'll just kind of bring you guys through it. Since you can't see it, I'll tell you how it went. Now, from the beginning. In early May, we had planned to go on a GoPro trip to the Galapagos. Probably the day we left, I think it was, the Red Bull Cape Fear event got put on an orange alert. Like, of course, we're like, okay, more stress, whatever. We'll continue on our way to the Galapagos, and if they do call it green, we'll have had a few days to surf and get footage and stuff for GoPro. So we continued on our way. Of course, flying from San Fran to Houston, thunderstorms on the tarmac. We got rediverted to Dallas. Whatever, I've been through this before. It's kind of happens often in Houston. Sat on the tarmac for 3 hours or more. By the time we got back to Houston, we had missed our connecting flight. So now we were in a situation where it was gonna take 2 days to reroute through Panama and get to Galapagos, So 2 extra days. We would miss the day of filming if they called the Cape Fear event on. I would have to turn directly around and be twice as far as I was than if we had just stayed in Houston. So we made the call to stay in Houston for another night and wait for them to call the comp either off or on. If it was off, we'd continue on to Galapagos and do that trip. If it was on, I'd turn around, fly home, repack, go to Tasmania. Sure enough, the next day, they go green with the event. So we turn around, get on a plane home, literally land, repack, and fly out early the next morning to meet the boys at the airport and get on our way to Tasmania. Step 1, checked in. All checked in. I got the Premier upgrade. We were so snoozed in the back. Cala class, no recliner.
No recliner.
Young Wyatt had to pay for his board bags.
Great start.
Great start to the trip. Good start to his trip.
Yeah.
The most disastrous traveler I've ever been with in my life.
It's only when I'm with you though.
We're going to Mexico. Decides to hide his canisters in his board bag. I did too, and my board bag went through and they pull him off the flight. Nearly missed a swell. Turned into one of the better swells though, ever. Flight number 1 of 4.
Uno, dos, tres,
Exactly. He's delirious. 1 of 4.
15 hours.
We're not even on our first flight yet. We're already delirious. We're headed to see Darwin's playground, where something like a Russo evolved from.
It's a rooster.
From this angle, you
fish.
can see the resemblance of the ancient tortoise. The young iguana. The modern man. Oh, the flexing tortoise. So, traveling with the young Wyatt, you'll notice many of this sort of disasters will be
It only
happening.
happens when I travel with you.
On our way to Houston, thunderstorms on the tarmac decided that we were gonna wake up in Dallas.
Ooh, Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A or pretzel filet?
Home of Chick-fil-A. We don't know. I'll update in an hour, but right now we're stuck in Dallas with a bunch of other people. Dad's guiding us. What's the wind?
South.
Ah. Should make for a quicker update. Hopefully we make our flight to Ecuador. Ecuador? Ecuador?
Going to the Ecuador.
What's Ecuador? 5 ticket switches later, we're on a plane. So, update, travel update. We, en route to Houston, we ended up and redirected to Dallas because of thunderstorms on the tarmac. Sat in Dallas for 4 hours. Our flight gets canceled. We got on another flight. That flight sat on the tarmac for an hour and a half. Oh God, stand by. Finally make it to Houston, and the airport is in absolute chaos. No flights going in or out. Missed our connection to Galapagos. Have to overnight in Houston. Totally new route if we end up going on to Galapagos. On top of it all, Cape Fear event called on orange. Wyatt's hyped. Wyatt's entered zombie mode. Russo's entered dad mode. Russo decided to wear slippers.
I'm gonna be barefoot in Houston soon.
Through the biggest airport catastrophe in human history.
Worst place to be at the moment. We're here.
The absolute worst place to be in the States.
Thomas, who's coming across the middle of America, gonna sweep across the Caribbean, do a 360, shoot back up north, going south, and produce one hell of a storm.
That's what he said. This is how many people got skitzed in Houston. There's no cars left. There's no cars left because no one has flights out of Houston. We'll say it before and we'll say it again. Houston, we have a problem. It would be a hell time.
Be a fucking hell, son. Well, fuck, dude. I don't know.
I don't know either, but thanks for the call.
Yeah, bro. Fucking, you guys call me anytime for advice.
Okay, dude.
All right, one last swell forecast. What do you think?
I don't know. I think if you went and won the contest, you'd be really stoked that you went.
You're damn right. Great advice.
Right? And then if you didn't go and it was firing and everyone was getting crazy barrels, you'd probably be bummed that you missed out.
Yeah. It's true.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's easier for me to make a decision for you than for me to make a decision for myself because I'm not good at this.
Yeah.
So I'll leave you at that.
Okay, thanks, dude. It is confirmed. We're heading home.
I got $300 in my pocket.
I got $300 in my pocket.
Got 13 hours in Houston. There ain't enough bowls in this city because we're about to eat some steak. Steak! Whoop whoop!
24-hour challenge in Houston.
24 hours. Who can eat the most carne? Carne asada of a steak is a laca. You can take the butcher's. You can take the butcher's word, or you can stick your hand up a bull's ass and check its meat.
What he said. In a shocking turn of events, the team turns back from their Galapagos mission Cape Fear is on, and we're headed back to Hawaii to pack for Australia. We made it to Houston, and Houston had a problem, so we turned around. Now we fly to Tasmania. By this point, I think I had been in and around airports for about 4 or 5 days, and I was pretty much complete zombie mode. But we were kind of just laughing it off, and I was like, you know what? After one thing after another went wrong for so long, something had to eventually go right. And we got clean flights all the way through, overnighted in Melbourne, I think, and got to Tasmania, and by then it was like, I had kind of forgotten the whole Houston nightmare because of just straight nerves. Like, we were going to surf the Shipsterns event, and obviously you're gonna be freaked out. I had a ton of adrenaline the whole way there. I was like, when we landed, they showed us this hype reel of pretty much wipeouts and guys going off the step. That was just like, like, was that just to make everyone super scared? Like, that's how I felt anyway. I was like, oh my god, like, this is what we're getting ourselves into. At that point, it was predicted to be pretty big, and we'd be towing, which I don't have much experience in, but we were like, whatever. We're here. We're gonna do it. We're gonna have fun. I was with Co Rothman and Billy Kemper, so it was a pretty hype crew. So next morning, get up around 3:30 a.m. after having not fallen asleep till way later just because of nerves. Get up at 3:30 a.m. and think of it, you know what? It's gonna be a long, cold boat ride. We don't really know what the boat's like. I'm gonna put on my wetsuit now. And my wetsuit now means put on my padded Patagonia suit, the impact suit, then my pool suit, the inflation one, and then my 4.3 with my booties on. So I put all my gear on, and I'm like, oh, this feels pretty good. Like, put my jacket on, put my shoes on, like, walking down to the boat, all the way down, like, shit, like, I think I have to, like, pee. And little did we know this boat ride was 3 hours long. So it's like, damn it, oh, you know what, I think I have to do a second poop by this time. We'd been awake for like an hour and a half. So I was like, damn it, it's gonna happen. I get on the boat thinking like everyone's gonna be suited up. Nobody is suited up. All the Tassie boys are looking at me, cracking up, laughing. They're like, dude, it's 3 hours. It's a huge, nice boat. There was no need to get suited up so early. I was like, whatever, I'm hyped. I'm in my suit. I'm fucking staying in it. So, of course, like an hour later, I had to peel down everything, take all the layers off, go in, take a poop in the bathroom, take a pee, re-suit back up.
Don't lie, you took a shit.
I said that.
Oh, I thought you said pee.
I took a poop and I took a pee. I said it. I'm telling the people the truth. Anyway, we're rolling up. We're getting close to Shipstern. There's a beautiful sunrise. The whole sky turned orange, and that time the boys were saying they could tell from the ocean it wasn't going to be super. It wasn't going to be super big, so it kind of like took the edge off a little bit. Because, I mean, we've never surfed the wave before. I surfed it once when I was 15, but we had zero experience. And to go in on a huge swell, it was pretty nerve-wracking. So like, oh, it might be a little smaller. And we're like, okay, like getting pretty psyched. Decided, you know what? When we roll up, I'm gonna just get my stuff together and go out and wash off the travel and get a few waves. When we did roll up on it, it was definitely a lot smaller than predicted. It was probably 8 to 10 feet, a couple 12-footers, but still hitting the steps, still looking super nuts. Like, I mean, no matter what size, it's a straight slab, so always intimidating. But I wanted to get a few GoPro shots, so I rigged up my GoPro and grabbed my 6.6 and paddled out with all my gear on. And my first wave, I dropped in, bottom turned, and the whole wave just hooked at me like this. Right, I went over the step and bottom turned, and the whole wave hooked at me towards the cliff, and I went directly into the lip. Got lipped in the face, over the falls, dragged like almost nearly onto the rocks. It wasn't a bad hold down, and it was kind of a violent beat down, but not too bad. But I just almost ended up on the rocks. And I was like, oh my God, like, of course my first wave, like, but it's almost better to wipe out on your first wave because you wash off the nerves. When you make one, you still have that thought of like, I haven't eaten it yet. I don't know what it's like to eat it here. So when you eat it, it kind of, it's almost relieving because you're okay, I went through the wipeout. I'm totally fine. I'm not injured. Go through that. I didn't get another wave and I was the first heat, so I went and got my jersey. I decided at that point, he's like, you know what, with priority and everything, I'm just gonna paddle. At least for the first half when I'm under priority. Those guys will be out in the back and they have priority, so they'll be on the bombs if they come. I'll just paddle the first half and maybe tow the second half. And I ended up getting a couple insane waves in the beginning half of the heat. And when it came around for my priority on the second half, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna stay paddling because there's waves going under these tow guys that they're not seeing. I stayed paddling and I had priority over the other guys in the heat for the second half. So it was kind of a no-brainer thing. I could catch a wave, paddle straight back out, and I still had priority because the guy that I was switching priority with, he was still towing. It's kind of confusing, but that's just how it was. Got another score, and at that point I was winning the heat, so I was pretty psyched, and it came down to the final minutes. Pedro Scooby needed a score, and I think he didn't know who had priority, so he tried to tow. I had priority at the time. He tried to tow into the last set in the final seconds, and he needed a score, so I was like, I don't care. Like, it was a paddle away. I'm going. And I thought he would kick out, but he didn't end up kicking out. So all of a sudden I realized, like, oh my God, I have to go over his trail he made. I was in the lip. I got launched out into the flats, and that one I actually got super pounded on. Not so, I kind of got washed in by the rocks on the first one, and when I popped up, the backwash off the rock hit my face and I swallowed water, so I started coughing and I turned around and all the water sucked off the reef and all I could see was rocks. Literally, I was starfished out on rocks and there was like a 10-foot whitewater landing on my head. And I was like, fuck, what am I gonna do here? And I just put my head down because I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't dive underwater. Put my head down, I had no breath because I had been coughing, and that hold down was so much longer than I thought. I nearly blacked out. I was trying to scratch for the surface, and at one point my arms just stopped working, and I was just like, well, I have my impact, I'll pop up. And I did pop up, but I was like, literally for a second there my arms had stopped working. It was a little worrisome. I had a lot of water in my brain, but the ski was right there when I popped up, and I had tons of time before my next heat. Luckily the heat was over, so I was totally fine. And I was like, you know, that's probably as bad as it's gonna get at this size and stuff. So got it out of the way in the first heat, and I was stoked. I won my heat and I was on to the final. I could relax. Billy and Koa surfed their heats, but it was a crazy setup with the towing and the priority system and everything, and it didn't work so well for those guys, so they didn't make it. So cruised for a while. They had insane food on the boat. Red Bull did an amazing job catering the event. It was one of the most well-organized specialty events I've ever been to. So the final comes around, and at this point I'm like, you know what, like, I'm just, after all that stuff, I'm just psyched to be in this final. And it was Lori Towner, Jughead, Mikey Brennan, and I think his name was James, was the other guy. He was gonna tow and the rest of us were gonna paddle. And I was like, dream final, like, the boys are gonna paddle. There's still 6 sets coming in. We can all push it together. Like, those guys are some of the gnarliest paddle slab guys in the world. So I was like, fuck, this is insane. The water was crystal clear. We're all out there like, how sick is this? Like, we're just having the most hell time ever, and like all in the final together. But before we went out, we had to decide who gets priority. So we drew straws, and I ended up drawing straw with number 1 on it. So I got priority in the beginning of the heat for the first wave. So the horn blew, a couple of minutes, maybe 1 minute goes by, and insane bomb pops up, and that was my first wave that I got a 9 something on. But I was just like what, how good is that? Like, drew the straw, had priority, and somehow like that wave came right in the beginning of the heat, and I started off and there was 53 minutes to go and I had a 9, and I was like, oh my God, I need a backup. So caught 2 more waves pretty quick under those guys, fell on both of them. I was like, okay, just calm down, get a backup. Got a backup with about, I think at that point it was 30 minutes to go. I think I got a 5 something. It then turned into the longest 30 minutes of my life. So 30 minutes to go. I have 2 scores. At that point, I think a bunch of the boys only needed maybe an 8 or so to advance. And I was like, damn, like, please just wishing the time would count down as fast as possible. I was like, just end this thing already. Like, this is gonna be the longest 30 minutes of my life. And the announcer's literally calling out time calls every minute on the minute. He's like, 33 minutes, 32 minutes. And every minute was like 10 minutes. I was like, fuck, stop calling the timeout. Like, let some go by. It keeps going and going. Couple of boys get a couple more waves. I get another one, I fall. Everyone's kind of falling. The guy out the back, all of a sudden, bomb comes. The guy had been sitting there on the ski waiting to tow a wave. This wave came in, and it was the biggest one that had come in throughout the final, and it was just like, you could tell it was going to be an insane wave. He tows into this thing and just puts his arms wide, stands tall, and a huge barrel ends up getting a 10. I was like, oh my God, all the whole heat. Now this happens with 7 minutes to go, and he only needs a 5 to back it up. I was like, of course, like, never won a comp before. This is what I was thinking, like, I win the whole final, and then in the end, this is what happens. Like, of course this is what happened. So I'm thinking, this guy just needs a 5. He's just gonna tow something. And the ocean, a little wave comes. Jughead gets a sick wave, but falls coming out. And he didn't need that huge of a score either. But I was like, okay, like, shoot, like, ticking down, ticking down, ticking down, ticking down. Another wave comes, I think Lori got it. And then with 3 minutes to go, the ocean literally just goes dead. And I can't see any bumps coming. And I'm like, please just be flat for these 3 minutes. It's like, come on. And then it counted down, and that was it. And I was just kind of in disbelief. And like, I just couldn't believe it. It was such a special moment for me. It was my first competitive win in like an actual contest like that in my career. I mean, I had the wave of the winner and kind of stuff like that, but in an actual competition win, to be at the Red Bull Cape Fear event at Shipsterns, it was just like, I was in disbelief. I couldn't believe it. And Billy came up on the ski. He's like, "You won!" I was like, "I won!" Like, and Laurie and Jack were like hugging out. Like, this is the sickest thing ever. Literally the best day ever. Also, I'll just tell you guys. So yeah, I rode a 6.6 in the beginning before the comp. That same 6.6 was a little thick, so I switched boards over to one that had kind of the step deck and a little tighter rails. That felt a lot better. A 6.6 tank model in my first heat. That board got demoed on the rocks on the beatdown I was talking about. The one where I got held under for super long. My leash had broken, and then when I got it, it had been through the rocks, so that board was completely demoed. In the final, I rode a 6.4 tank, and I thought it might be a little small. Sorry. I thought it might be a little small because we wear a lot of wetsuit. You have a lot of layers on. The 6.4 tank felt insane for paddling out there. And just the maneuverability you had in the barrel was a lot better. Going over the step was less, felt less dramatic. You have less board, so you kind of can like wiggle over it a little smoother, it felt like. And pumping in the barrel is always better on a smaller board. But yeah, so those are the boards I rode. So that kind of wraps up the Tasmania trip. It was cool because we had that whole 6 days of stress and travel in the airport, and it led up to like such a special, cool thing happening that I don't know. I just couldn't appreciate that whole journey and the struggle to like what happened at the end. It was just insane. So we head back from Tasmania, get home, and my girlfriend had planned a surprise party for me, and of course on our way home, boards don't make it on the flight, get stuck. We have to overnight in, I think it was Sydney or Melbourne, I forget where we overnight. Missed the surprise party. It was like, oh no, like, one travel nightmare after another, but whatever. We all organized it, rescheduled, and all my friends came down. We had an epic barbecue on the beach. That was just fired up to get everybody together, and felt just kind of embarrassed and awkward because it's just like, I don't know, having people around for you is just a weird thing. But I appreciated everyone coming down and supporting it, and it felt really special. A couple days later, had a Vans trip to Scotland, and it was just back on the road again. Flew across the world to Scotland. Scotland's such an epic place, you guys. It's like crystal clear water. It's freezing and the weather's not always nice, but it is super, super beautiful. And there's these castles, you literally feel like you're in a Lord of the Rings movie. It still looks like that. It looks the same. Everywhere you look, there's a big castle on a hilltop. They're like, oh, Braveheart came here and stormed the castle and took it from the English, and like, it's a really, really special place. We were just shooting for a new shoe. Came home from Scotland, and I was literally just in travel mode. Was like, you know what? I'm gonna turn around and go straight to WA to go hang with my brother and score some waves. It's literally firing over there right now. There's gonna be swell. It'll be insane. Air camp, Westaw's air camp video, and I had lost my damn wallet traveling on the way home. So at this point I was super scrambled. I didn't lose my passport, I lost my wallet, so both my cards. I had a little bit of cash, and I was like about to leave to the airport, and I was like, you know what, I can't do this. It's too much stress. No cash. I don't want to get stranded in the airports. I canceled that trip, which was a blessing in disguise, because lo and behold, Galapagos is back, and there's a swell heading there. So we now get to go Galapagos round 2 attempt, if we can get through Houston. I leave tomorrow for the Galapagos, so that'll probably be a hell time, and it looks like it's gonna be some insane waves. So yeah, month of May, full circle. We tried to make it to the Galapagos in the beginning, failed, to Tasmania, to Scotland, home, ending the month with trying to make it back to the Galapagos, which hopefully we'll get some fun stuff. But GoPro will have all that content. They're gonna do a project on it. Hopefully I can put some stuff out on the YouTube. I'll be putting some videos out in the next week or so of all the gear I'm bringing to the Galapagos, everything I've packed, and some travel tips for you guys. Hopefully you like it. Hopefully you like the recap. I think I covered everything. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Subscribe. We salute you. Thank the people. Bye-bye. Babe, can you talk us through what you're feeling?
I'm feeling frozen toes. Actually, it feels like pins and needles. Like, it's so cold, it's hot.
What's the worst
And I
part
can't
about an
even
ice
get,
bath?
like, what do you mean, the breathing? The
Is
worst
it
part is getting to freeze.
The
like,
feet, or through the first minute?
It's through the first minute, and it's like the joints, like the ankles and the muscles. Like, I can't even like move. I can't even put my whole body in.
I think that's the biggest complaint we see when people first jump in the ice is the joints and ankles.
Yeah.
Either that, or it's just mental shock and they jump out right away.
And also, ice targets where you're like injured. So it's all the places that I'm injured.
Specific injury spots will tighten up right away, I think, because it's pulling the waste out of it. You're at 1:35 to go.
I like when I go to the Korean spa, you have to put your whole body in it, because I won't do it here. But when we go to the
For some reason, it's better going in than an ice plunge.
Yeah,
You can just kind of get in there.
And like your whole body has to be in. It's better mentally. Ow. Okay, go away.
Okay, bye now. 1 minute to go.